Hello everyone, and today we are going to be looking at how I got 7 wins in the Metagame challenge. So I've been playing a lot of JUND lately, like a lot, and I think I finally found a sweet spot. So the deck we played on the Metagame challenge was JUND Soul of Windgrace. So Soul of Windgrace is this 4 mana 5/4 cat avatar that when it enters the battlefield or attacks, it puts a land card from a graveyard into the battlefield tapped under our control. So this card is not exactly new, this card is already from the last, not even the last set, the one before that from Dominaria. But this deck still runs a lot of new cards, and the most impactful one I think is Nissa. Nissa is a new fantastic finisher for JUND. She's very good against mono white, being able to destroy artifacts or enchantments is very relevant. Being able to get rid of cards like the Wedding Announcement, like Bankbusters, like Restoration of a Ganjo. So super strong card, and when you finally get to plus her, she's gonna finish the game super quickly. Unfortunately, in our JUND deck, the -7 is not really relevant, but the other two modes are so strong right now in the meta. I think she is one of the strongest cards coming out of Phyrexia. So the other new additions are Vraska, which the -2 is very powerful, being able to deal with any creature, is especially good against cards like Obliterator, the new White Vindicator, like the 6 mana Angel that mono white runs that has the shield counters. She's very good against Sheoldred, well, pretty much against any big creature. She can just deal with anything, like owls, whatever. Things with death triggers will not trigger because she transforms them into treasures. So yeah, Vraska is pretty good, and when you're not minusing to her, you get to draw cards and proliferate. Proliferate can be relevant, for example, if you have Fable of the Mirror Breaker out, or if you have a Bankbuster, it's also pretty good. And it also works with your own shield counters that you get to place thanks to your Titan of Industry. And it's also pretty good with your other planeswalkers. We are also running Lukka, another new planeswalker. This one is a Gruul planeswalker, and we mostly use him for the -1, making a bunch of 3/3s. The -4 can also be relevant, especially if you have a Titan out. Being able to deal 7 damage distributed as you want is very powerful. But even if you just have like a Soul or a Sheoldred, dealing 4 or 5 damage is still very good. We also run Glissa Sunslayer, new card. So she's absolutely unbeatable in combat. With the combination of First Strike and Death Touch, she just doesn't lose combat. The opponents can't attack whenever she is untapped, and you get to, well, whenever you attack, they have to chump or you get the trigger. And the most important trigger, from my experience, once again, is the Destroy Target enchantment, because there are so many enchantments running around in Standard right now, whether that being the Wedding Announcements or the ones we already mentioned before from White. There's also Fable of the Mirror Breaker, which is, well, in pretty much every other deck that's not White. So super relevant card, very powerful in combat, with an extra being like the attack trigger. That's very powerful. Even if you don't have an enchantment to destroy, you just get to draw a card, which is still very good. So new addition is also Armored Scrapgorger. This is a mana dork for 2 mana. You get to add 1 mana of any color. It's a 0/3, but the thing that really differentiates this mana dork from all others so far is that this one is also incidental graveyard hate. So whenever you tap it for mana, you get to, well, for mana or to attack, whenever you tap it, when it becomes tapped, you get to exile a card from a graveyard and you put an oil counter on it. And then when it has 3 oil counters, it becomes a 3/3, which is also relevant because attacking with this creature has proven to be relevant in some games, just like you're going to see in the gameplay video after this. But yeah, being able to randomly exile cards from our opponent's graveyards is very strong, so we don't need to run any other graveyard hate card. We don't run any hearses in our sideboard, as you're going to see in a second, because Scrapgorger is usually enough, and is very good in our deck. It allows us to play turn 3 Soul of Windgrace or Sheoldred, and then it ramps us to our even bigger stuff. And the last new addition from Phyrexia All Will Be One is a one-off Black Sun Twilight. So this card, it's, well, you get to give -X/-X to target creature, and if X is 5 or more, we get to return a creature card of our own to the battlefield tapped. So this often can like kill their Sheoldred, getting ours back, or getting a Soul of Windgrace back, getting a Glissa back, even getting a Bloodtithe Harvester back is still very, very strong. So super strong, tempo swing, very good in our deck because we usually have a lot of mana in this deck. So yeah, we are also running a bunch of fast lands. We got Blackcleave Cliffs, and we have Copperline Gorge. So the mana base, as you guys can see, is pretty complicated. I also struggle with doing it because since we were playing Soul of Windgrace, we want to be playing Riveteer's Overlook because when it comes back with Soul, it immediately gets sacked, and then we get to fetch one of our basics. But the thing is, this goes back into the graveyard, so as long as you crack one of these throughout the whole game, you will always have fodder for your Soul of Windgrace. So that's why the mana base is so complicated. We are trying to play a 3-color deck, but we also have to have this in consideration that we have to play Riveteer's Overlook. That's because it's very strong with Soul of Windgrace, and so you have to play enough basics for it to be relevant. And yeah, that's the deck. Super powerful. Moving on to the sideboard, we run 4 Duresses, 2 Sheoldred's Edict. Oh, that's right. We also run Sheoldred's Edict, 1 in the main, and it's also a new card. So this card you get to choose between the opponent sacrifices a non-token creature, a creature token, or a planeswalker. So yeah, the card is pretty good. It's very good against planeswalkers, and it's pretty good against cards like, well, the angel that we mentioned before that has a shield counter or something like an obliterator. It can be good in many, many specific situations. So we run a 1-off in the main, and we run 1 more in our sideboard. Other than that, we run 4 Duresses for the control/other mid-range matchups. We have 2 cut downs to play against the more aggressive strategies like mono red or soldiers. We have 2 Abrades, which work really well against Bankbusters or against the early to the ground and fast decks. We have Liliana of the Vale, which can be very good against control. Vampire's Vengeance, once again against the aggro decks like soldiers and mono red. And then we have Riveteer's Charm, just a 1-off that can exile the opponent's graveyard if they're running something like when we're playing against the Invoke Justice decks, we bring this in. It's also pretty good against random mid-range piles. Getting to sack their bigger planeswalker or creature is very, very strong. Or in other cases, we even get to exile the top 3 cards of our deck and just get more gas. And then we run the new Throne, Breaker of Silence. Very good against control, very good against mono white, very good against other like Grixis mid-range or against the Mirror, because it's usually really hard to kill. You can't kill it with black or white spells. You have to use green ones, and no one uses those. So he's pretty much unkillable outside of being killed by, I don't know, Depopulate, and that's pretty much it. The card is very, very strong. And we also run a 1-off of this new card, Tyrannax Rex. So this is obviously just to play against Grixis mid-range or blue-white control, because those are the decks that run counter spells. And this guy can't be countered, and it's for 8. So super strong card, also new one. So the deck runs a lot of new Phyrexia all-in-one cards, so it's a really spicy one. And I hope you guys just enjoy it. I've been testing it a lot, and I think this is one of the best configurations you can come up with. So I'll leave you guys with the video footage of the last game of the Metagame challenge, and I hope you guys enjoy. See you!